You're listening to a message delivered at the Fountains, a United Methodist Church in Fountain Hills, Arizona.
For those who don't know, my name is Todd Elwood, and this is my second sermon that I've ever given in my life. I say that just in case you thought I was a rookie. There we go. Keep that in mind, I'm not David Felton. I delivered my first sermon in this very spot, Sunday, June 29th, 2014, which is exactly 160 Sundays ago. So if I'm on a consistent schedule, my next sermon will be August 30th, 2020. Mark your calendars. For my first sermon, I talked about how brilliantly and skillfully Jesus communicates with us. I chose that topic because I consider myself expert in only one subject, and that is written communication. If I'm not expert, at least it's the subject that I know best. But having exhausted the one and only subject which I can speak with any real authority, this left me scratching my head about today's topic. After an appropriate amount of pondering and praying, I decided I would preach a topic that's breezy, easy, and light. Why are we here? And what is the meaning of life? It's easy stuff. At first glance, why are we here and what is the meaning of life might seem like two ways to phrase the same question, but they are distinct topics. Another way to put it is, why are we here? And now that we are here, what are we supposed to do? These are two separate issues, but I can answer them both with one word. Drum roll, please. Where's our drummer? Pizza. Amen. Amen. See you next week. No. For those weirdos in the crowd who don't understand immediately what I'm talking about, my one-word answer, I'll have to backtrack a little bit and connect a few dots. So the first question is, why are we here? The answer is deceptively simple, but to arrive at it, we must go back to the beginning, and I mean in the beginning. Genesis chapter 1. For the sake of time, I'll do the Cliff's Notes. God created the heavens and the earth, and he created light and dark. He saw that it was good. He created the land and the seas, and he saw that it was good. He created grasses, herbs, fruit-yielding trees, and he saw that it was good. You're noticing this pattern, right? He created stars and the moon, and he saw that it was good. Then sea creatures and winged fowl, and he saw that it was good. Cattle and creeping things, it was good. He saw that it was good. It was good, it was good, it was good. 6 times he saw that it was good. And we, humans, did not exist yet. I can't help but think, I wonder if God saw all the goodness, then imagined how someone else might enjoy all of it. And from that imagining, I wonder if he then created us to enjoy everything he created. If that's true, we literally are created through God's empathy. Imagining how someone else might experience something is the very definition of empathy. The story of creation leads me to believe that's how we came about. We didn't earn it. We did nothing to deserve it. God said, "It is good," 6 times, and then he made us because he envisioned how we might enjoy it all. You might think I am making a logical leap here, but I believe the proof lies in our very bodies. We are nothing but mainframe computers. We are connected to billions of stimuli receptors. In other words, we are made to take in as much data as possible. We see countless colors, shades, depths, distances. We hear highs, lows, and middles. A mother can hear a baby cry from blocks away. On our relatively tiny tongues, we have roughly 10,000 minuscule hairs that send messages to our brains about how things taste. Our largest organ, our skin, is literally designed to feel heat, cool, wind, dryness, moisture, tingles, tickles, pats, and pets. God saw all of his creation as good. He wondered how we might experience it, which is empathy. And we are made to do almost nothing else but take it all in, to experience and enjoy all of it. More than that, as far as we understand, we are the only one of God's creation that also can empathize. We were created through God's empathy, and we are the only creature with that same ability. To imagine ourselves in someone else's place. No other animal can do that. Even further, God also blessed us with an intellect that allows us to create just as He did. And creation for us very often is combining what He first created. As an example, God created the grasses. We heard that. We take the grains from the grass, wheat, for example. We dry it, we grind it, we create flour, we combine that flour with water, oil, sugar, and yeast, and we create dough. We heat the dough to create a crust, and we top the crust with crushed tomatoes. The oil from crushed olives, pepperoni, mozzarella cheese, hold the anchovies, ta-da, pizza. You weren't sure how it'd get back there, right? God created us through empathy, gave us the ability to empathize, and the intellect to enjoy and combine His creation in ways maybe He hadn't even thought of. And through all that, we invented pizza. I say we're doing pretty good for ourselves. So now, let's follow Genesis through the Old Testament. Have you ever noticed what we humans did whenever we believed God might be angry with us? Remember, we are made to experience all of God's creation through all of our senses. But whenever we thought God might be mad, we limited that very input. We experienced less of God's creation. The Old Testament suddenly becomes a rule book on how to dull the experience of life. We wrote rules about what we can and cannot taste, how we must cut our hair or not combine the feel of different fabrics, whom we can and cannot love. We limit our experience of life hoping to please God, when God very clearly created us as beings to enjoy life to the fullest and as creatures that can empathize. I imagine God might have been shaking His head at that point. So, ta-da, Jesus to the rescue. Jesus arrives for His earthly ministry, and what is His message? Well, we heard it today. Love God and love others. So, of course, that's the answer to my second question. What is the meaning of life? Love God and love others. So let's define how we love others, and let's see how I tie it back to pizza. This will be easier than you think. As you know, one of the favorite ways that Jesus taught us was through storytelling or parables. Now, roughly 1/3 of Jesus' recorded teachings are through parables, so their lessons are quite significant. As we go through the parables, patterns start to emerge. You can begin parsing out major themes, and not by coincidence, some of these themes directly echo what God the Father has already demonstrated. And that is, we are given immeasurable goodness through God's empathy, meaning we did nothing to earn it or to deserve it, but further, and most important in my eyes, a major theme of the parables of Jesus is our purpose is to emulate God's empathy, to use the ability to empathize that He gave us, and then to behave as He behaved. In fact, many of Jesus' stories include God, but in a metaphor form. Anytime Jesus tells us a story where there is a slave master or a boss or a father or a shepherd or a king, someone to represent God in the story, notice in those stories when that person becomes upset. Very often that person representing God only becomes mad when someone else in the story fails to use empathy. Here are some examples. In The Prodigal Son, the father offers forgiveness and a feast when the prodigal son returns. We all know that story. Even though that son neither earned or deserved it. And the only moment there's any tension in the story is when the elder son questions the father's forgiveness and the feast. Or in other words, when the elder son resists showing empathy towards his brother. The same lesson is clear in the parable of the unforgiving servant. In that story, a servant owes his master a massive amount of money, and so he begs his master for forgiveness. The master forgives the debt, even though the slave might not deserve it. Later, the slave meets another slave who owes him a tiny fraction of what the first slave owed the master. But the slave fails to offer the same empathy that the master showed him. The master catches wind of what happened, and he hands the first slave to the tormentors. That's what it says, the tormentors. That does not sound fun. In the lost sheep, the shepherd goes out searching for one lamb from his flock. In telling the story, Jesus asks his disciples, essentially, which of you would not do the same? And the message is clear. You should all show that same empathy. In the Good Samaritan, Jesus tells of amazing empathy and then instructs his disciples with these exact words: go and do likewise. In the parable of the lamp under the bushel, where we get the song, "This Little Light of Mine," even in that parable, Jesus says you should display the light so all who enter your home may see it. This is empathy, imagining others entering and providing them with light. It's for you, but it's also for them. Over and over and over, Jesus talks about empathy for others and acting on the empathy with love and kindness, just exactly as God did when he created us. We were created from empathy to experience and enjoy what God made, and we are called to share God's goodness with others through that same empathy. When Jesus straight up preached without the use of parables, he directly told us this: feed the poor, clothe the naked, care for the sick, on and on. At the Last Supper, he shared, and then he instructed his disciples to do the same. Take and eat. Do this in remembrance of me. But the finest example of all, and at long last, how I tie my second question, what is the meaning of life, back to pizza, is the miracle of the feeding of the multitude. If you remember, Jesus feeds thousands of people, but begins with only a few loaves of bread and a couple of fish. Everyone receives enough to eat, and at the end there were baskets of food left over. It's a miracle. But when did the miracle happen? It did not happen with Jesus waving his arms and then suddenly there was a mountain of food. No, the miracle happened when people in the crowd, despite starting with very little, showed empathy by imagining how their neighbor might want a bite and then acting accordingly by passing the food along. That's when the miracle happened, when we emulated the empathy that God gave us. Now, instead of bread and fish, imagine that same story beginning with a couple slices of pie in a pizza box. This is what I think about. Why are we here, and what is the meaning of life? We are here to eat and enjoy pizza. And the meaning of our lives is to share pizza. Amen. Oh, postscript, sorry. Postscript to the message. In the beginning of the talk, I told you that my sermon this time is not about communication, which is kind of sort of true. But the thing is, since the start, I've been using a sneaky communication tool called anchoring. So anchoring, if you don't know what that is, it's linking one thing to another thing that's totally unrelated, with the hopes that the first thing causes some sort of action. So if I did this right, pizza will now, and maybe forever, be linked in your minds with empathy. Pizza, empathy, pizza, empathy, pizza, empathy, pizza, empathy. And so, today, as we enjoy pizza together, the pizza's on the way?
It's coming at 10:15.
10:50. Oh, I got to...
Can you talk for another 10
Yes, I can tap dance. So we have pizzas coming, we have pizzas on the way, and as we eat the pizza and enjoy it together, I hope that the anchoring works, and I hope you imagine someone in your life. And I hope when you do, it spurs you to be kind or loving or gracious to that person, maybe with a visit or a phone call, an email saying hello, something good, something empathetic, something pizza-ish. And now for real this time, amen.
Thanks for listening to this week's Applying It to Life from the Fountains. For more information on our faith community or to support this outreach with a donation, be sure to visit us online at www.reachtouchteach.com.